Hello and welcome to Eternal Weekend 2023. My name is Julian Knapp. I'm joined by Kaiser Vatari, and we are here in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Day 2, the Legacy main event. I'm super excited. This is the biggest event in almost 4 years that we've seen in the world of Legacy. And we couldn't be more pumped for this. Kai, how do you feel? Like you already mentioned, like you're busy buzzing, just ready to go into this event.
Dude, I'm feeling absolutely fantastic to be here with you, Julian, and with you, everyone, who are all excited about the format Legacy. I hope that everyone, sleeve up their dual lands, their Chromoxen, their Ancient Tombs, all that stuff, and I'm here to watch prime Legacy content.
Yeah, I quickly ran the numbers. Today and tomorrow, there's going to be about 5,000 matches of Legacy going to be played in Pittsburgh. It's probably going to make it the Legacy capital of the world for at least a couple of years running, right? But who knows? Who knows, right? Legacy seems to be growing. There's so much commitment, so much passion in the format, and we didn't really expect this, right? But Card Titan, they made it possible. They upped the numbers, and now we're literally hovering around like 1,000 players, right? This is the craziest turnout that I would have never predicted, and I couldn't be more excited for it. So because of that, we have a couple of different events going on. Yesterday, we already saw the Vintage Championships determine the top 8. Tomorrow, we're gonna go into another phase of Swiss, right? We ended up having to play 11 rounds of Swiss, and because that's not possible for a single human on the planet, we split it up. Tomorrow, there's gonna be 2 more rounds of Swiss after 9 rounds today, and then Vintage top 8, followed by the Legacy top 8. I don't know, Kai. The last time I've seen something like that must have been a Legacy GP, right? But you think so?
I think it was probably the Grand Prix Bologna. It is so exciting to see such a high attendance after the astonishing events in both Asia and Europe, which we witnessed a couple of weeks ago, right? Like those were also fantastic events, and it's like a grand finale and here now in North America. Super excited.
I was already so excited to see so many people coming down for these other 2 events, but now basically hovering around 1,000, that's way, way crazier than I've ever seen. But okay, why are we actually here, right? That's going to be the title of what officially is called the North American Legacy Champion. But what do we actually get out of this? What is the one first place that everybody's trying to get?
Right. So the biggest difference between the Eternal Weekend events and all the other events is that you get a large painting. The winner goes home with a large painting. In this case, it's a lightning bolt painted by RK Post, and that's like a special trophy, which is, it's a one of a kind. It's a one of a kind super prime thing. You can, just get and place it in your living room.
You can hang it up on your wall, right? It's gonna be, as you
to.
mentioned, one of a kind. But for a couple of years running now, Wizards also did another thing. They're giving out special promos to all the top 8. 16 of those have already been awarded in Europe and Asia, and now there's the last 8 up for grabs. That's Dragon Rage Channeler by Patrick Hall. And if you can sneak into the top 8, and you're gonna get there, you will get one of those. And if you ever play them in a tournament, people will know you made top 8 at the North American, European, or Asian Legacy Championships. I wanna be there, but Kai, we're gonna be pumped for 11 rounds plus 3 of Legacy in the next 2 days.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Awesome. Yeah. Who's actually gonna make all of this possible, right? We got Card Titan, we got Game Genic, and we got also Anorak streaming all of this. There's also a special code. There's Eternal Weekends 2023 for 10% off of your order until the end of the month. And Game Genic also has another code for 10% off of all your orders until the end of the week. So, by the way, I'm using one of the deck boxes. If you want to get one of those, you can get them on Game Genic. So, I can't wait anymore, dude. I want to get in the first couple of matches. I want to see who's going to be there for the very first round. Almost 1,000 players. Who's going to be here in the first round? Oh, okay, that's some Legacy. That's actually some Magic royalty in that case. That's Jerry Thompson. Pro Tour winner, GP winner, and now competing for the North American Legacy Championships. His deck of choice is Dimir Death's Shadow. Very, very aggressive deck. An even more aggressive deck on the blue-black take that we usually play like with all these reanimation targets and ways to cycle our creatures into the graveyard. He's also playing Death Shadow. That's also why he's playing a couple of what we call shock lands to reduce his life total. He's also playing Snuff Out to pump the Shadow up a lot very quickly and try to finish the game before the opponent really can get their feet on the ground. And here's the one twist to this. You rarely see this, but I want to say an increasing amount of players are doing this because Legacy has been so dominated by artifacts lately. People like to splash Meltdown into this kind of archetype. They can easily do that. They also have access to like basic lands. And because of those basic lands, now Cherry figured this out. I have easy access to my basic lands. It's only a 2-color deck. I got a bunch of fetches. I got Shot of Khazad-dûm to cycle. So why don't I play Magus of the Moon, one of the best cyber cards in Legacy? Dude, this is something else, right?
This is some
I've never
this is
seen
some
that.
crazy, yeah, this is some absolute crazy technology. I've never seen something like this. It is not surprising for me to see Jerry Thompson on a deck like Death Shadow because we've all seen him in Modern doing the same thing many years ago. But like Magus of the Moon in a Demon Death Shadow deck, it might just steal like a game or two, maybe even more today. Let's see.
Yeah, and if you're looking to get into Legacy, this is one of the best ways to access the format. It has a bunch of like the cards that you already use in Modern, and you can make it work that way.
Awesome. So his opponent is on is T. Benjamin is on a
Tristan
Rock
Benjamin
Delver deck.
does, yeah.
Tristan Benjamin on a Rock Delver deck. This is another tempo deck in the format, which utilizes the card Delver of Secrets, Dragon's Way Chandler, in this case also Murktide Region and Questing Druid to kind of make up for the card advantage, right? You back it up with Dazes, Forces, Wastelands, and Lightning Bolts as the key removal spell. And it's kind of interesting to see like a Stern Dismissal also in the main deck. And it's gonna be like a tempo mirror. The creatures are not gonna be as big as Death Shadow, but they're gonna come down quickly. And there's also the additional reach with Lightning Bolts. So let's see about that.
This is almost a carbon copy of the deck list that Julian Jakobowicz used the other week in Prague to win the European Legacy Championships. Sideboard's slightly different, but we'll see both those players coming down. I think Cherry, I would guess, is going to take the more aggressive approach, while Tristan is going to control the game and maybe, leverage those questing druids to create some card advantage, but we will see how that's going to play out. I'm really stoked to see this. I think Death Shadow, as an aggressive deck, had lately kind of waned in popularity. It wasn't really like everybody was like on the blue-black evoke, blue-black scam, as we call it, side of things. But Cherry figured out, dude, this is an 11-round tournament. I want to be as aggressive as it gets. And I mean, there's a lot of value, right, in trying to finish your rounds quickly.
Oh, totally. So Tristan, firing it off with one of his 8 1-drops, Delve of Secrets, the namesake card of the deck. And I can only assume that Tristan's gonna try to apply as much pressure as possible early in the game. The challenge for Jerry Thompson is gonna be like, how much damage can he actually take before committing like his own game plan, right? Like at some point, like you might have to evaluate your shock lands properly. Like, can I take that much damage, or is that gonna be like almost lethal?
Yeah, that's always like one of the tricky things to do, right? How do you manage your life total? It's not only like in Legacy, which already is one of the formats that uses your life total as a resource to the max if possible, but Death Shadow even more so. And now we already see a Lightning Bolt in Tristan's hand. The entire hand is already pretty aggressive, right? And in the ideal place, he'd want to follow it up with a Wasteland. Daze, one of Cherry's spells, but Cherry, very wisely, first places Fetchland, then follows it up with a Grief, and he might actually, I'm wondering whether he's going to take the Daze. He's not going to take the Daze. Interesting.
Ooh, okay.
He's going to play a slow game then. Like, usually on a play like this, right, you want to reanimate the Grief, but we're not going to do that. Oh, dude, we're going to go into the most aggressive way possible. We're going to pick up a second Lightning Bolt here.
Damn. All right, so the Delve of Secrets will probably like chip in for 3 points of damage immediately. And we are already in a spot like Jerry is like he's facing so much damage already that he might to maybe use his shock lands in a way that they come into play tap maybe, and hopefully outgrow his opponent.
Yeah, I want to say from what we've seen this early, even though we mentioned, right, that Cherry might try to play a more aggressive game because he's got less sources of card advantage. From the opening we've seen, like, Tristan is the one who's basically forced into this role to press for as much damage as possible, just courtesy of the 2 Lightning Bolts and the Daze that he has picked up. And you know what's kind of like the genius in what Cherry has done? Like, officially, like, I can't tell because I don't see Cherry's hand, but by taking the Brainstorm, you're locking Tristan even more into this aggressive game plan, right? Cherry knows almost exactly what he's dealing with at this point. I guess in this case he does because the Delver flipped, and he knows, okay, I'm up against aggressive game plan. I can try to construct a controlling game plan. I can sit back, manage my life total, fetch a basic land that can't get wastelanded, and take things slowly. Because as soon as he takes out Tristan's creature here, Tristan's going to sit off a bunch of reactive spells that rely on tempo, Whereas Cherry is under no threat. So I think from Cherry's side, the best thing he could do is to take out the Delver. Okay, but he's offering the trade here, right? He's offering the trade for the days, as it looks like.
Yeah, so Jerry's hand didn't have a removal spell. We saw Thoughtseize, we saw I think a Death Shadow and a Wasteland, but no actual removal spell for the Delver. It is a little bit surprising to me to see Orcish Bowmasters already now, like, and not in response to, let's say, like a cantrip like Ponder or Brainstorm, because that could be like default damage for the Insectile operation.
Yeah, I guess in a way he makes it so that he plays it out on the. I think it must have been the upkeep. So Tristan is gonna be forced to like maybe hardcast days, maybe use days in some way, and try to catch him without being able to play a cantrip in response, because at that point he actually knew that Tristan wasn't holding one. So I kind of like this on the upkeep, especially if he says he's not really caring about the Bowmaster. He's following it up with a second one, and makes life a little bit harder for Tristan there. Wasteland takes out the Volcanic Island. And Tristan is basically forced to sit here and try to figure out whether he wants to point his next lightning bolt at Cherry or on any kind of creature comes up. But any kind of creature he has to take out takes away from his offensive potential. And without a second land, dude, oh, this is...
Yeah, it just turned out the
trouble.
Wasteland was absolute devastating here for Tristan. Like, he's sitting with all his bolts now in hand, and he might not be able to cast them if he doesn't find like a fetch land or a Volcanic Island in time.
Yeah, right now he's winning the race. He's basically one turn ahead, but as Cherry gets to add more stuff to the board, he is certainly going to be the one who's going to be able to catch up with Tristan. He might have a Murktide Regent. He might... I was going to say he might find one of his Snuff Outs, but Snuff Out could actually be a problem here, as it would take you down to 5 life at this point. What's that going to be? Okay, Shadow. Oh, dude. No.
Oh,
boom, boom, boom.
How about a second one? How about the second one?
The first one was already like pretty good. The second one makes it so that I'm not even sure, like, if Tristan could stack his entire deck, if he's gonna come back from this. He's literally gonna be forced to play a Singer spell on his turn in the best case scenario, and I think he actually did pick up a land there. But I'm not sure if he actually can withstand this assault now.
Yeah.
Dude, look at Cherry, like, so cool and collected, right? Fetch basic. Let's get another basic. Creature. This is how you win Magic. I think there's a famous Kai Buddha quote, right? How do you win Magic? And he said, play creatures, attack with creatures, and don't play any stupid spiders.
That sounds pretty straightforward, yeah. Like, Jerry might not cast his Thoughtseize in hand ever.
Yeah.
Because there's no need to.
I was
he's already winning the board.
There's nothing he's like super afraid of. Like, the closest thing he would be afraid of is like another lightning bolt. But he needs something at least. Because now, with knowledge of the second bolt, he's basically dead next turn. He's gotta figure something out. I assumed he might have something, but... Oh, the Thoughtseize is gonna trade for the bolt? Oh, okay, so he's basically making it so that the bolt is only like 2 damage instead of 3, which potentially gives him another turn. This is tricky. Like, if Tristan could counter this, he might actually do that. But the shadows are gonna be a problem, though. Yeah. Okay.
Oh my goodness,
like,
yeah.
Okay, it can't get there. This was actually a lot closer than I expected it to be. But if Cherry had nothing else, maybe the Thoughtseize actually made the difference there. But look at him do it. I can't get over how relaxed he is. I have a lot of appreciation for people who take their time, not in a physical sense, but in a strategic sense, right? Where they're like, okay, let me just like consolidate my mana base first, deploy my creatures, and then use this sniper Thoughtseize to take out the lightning bolt that would actually win you the game.
Totally. I think for this game, it was a little unusual to see a tempo mirror where I think none of the creatures got killed, right? Because a lot of the times, like, you end up lightning bolting your opponent's creatures, or you end up like snuff outing your opponent's creatures, things like that. But it was like a pure racing situation. And Death Shadow took down the first game.
Yeah, and that's basically how you construct the deck, right? In a way, you want to play quick rounds, you want to play like quick and dirty rounds, and especially in a 11-round tournament, if you can take, I want to say free wins. This wasn't really a free one, but if you can take easier wins, right? You're all up for that. And as we see Cherry going through his deck, what is he gonna take out? Oh, is that a Force of Will? I'm trying to figure out what that card is on the very front there. That's not gonna be a Force of Will. Okay. He wants Hydroblast, of course. He might take out the Snuff Outs. I'm curious. Still trying to figure this out. This is definitely not a matchup for Magus of the Moon, I would think. Kai, how do you go about this? Are you the kind of guy who puts in like 15 cards, takes out 15 cards, not even to conceal information? I used to do that to conceal information. Now I kind of do it because I really like basically train myself to remove the 15 worst cards for the matchup. I don't even think
Yeah.
about like this goes in, this goes out. I literally put everything in and remove the 15 worst cards.
If you got the extra time, like it's definitely a smart move to do so. There are a couple of cards in Jerry's deck that I would definitely side in. Like the Fatal Pushes in the sideboard look absolute fantastic in this matchup, given that Tristan has so many 1-drops. And the Hydroblast look really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. A Nihil Spellbomb, maybe as a way to nuke the graveyard to prevent Delirium, but also make it so that Region can't come down.
Murktide Region,
time.
the thing, yeah. There's always this cute, cheesy play almost where you bring in, I want to say, like Plague Engineer, and you name, I think you can name Human, maybe Wizard even works, and you take out like Undeliriate, Dragon Rage Channelers, and of course unflipped Divers of Secrets. I usually only really do that if there's like worse cards in the main deck, and it helps if there's like big ground creatures that you can like Death Touch against. I'm not sure if this is the matchup for it. Like if there was a Tarmogoyf, then maybe, but we'll see. I mean, this is one of the decks that Cherry must have had on his radar, right? This is one of the most popular decks in the format, this style of deck especially. But let's look at it from the is it Diver side. Let's look at it from Tristan's side. What does he have to bring in? He's got 3 Pyroblasts. I've actually no wait. This is this. 3 Pyroblasts. I'm not sure how great they are anymore. I want to say since these blue-black decks are a lot black-heavier these days, you sometimes actually get shredded. Like, let's say they go Grief, Troll, Reanimate Troll, you're sitting there with your Pyroblast as you're taking like 6 damage every turn, you're like, what have I done to myself?
Yeah,
so I sometimes see
absolutely.
people only bring in like 2 Pyroblasts, but we will see. Okay, second game. So Tristan knows what he came here for, and he does exactly that. And oh, good. Kai, you know what this trick is, why we are not cracking the bubble here, right?
Yeah, this is like a legacy thing, you know, for everyone who's new to the format. So the Delve of Secrets has a triggered ability where you look at the top card, and if it's a sorcery or instant, you get to flip that creature. Now, Mishra's Bauble is a kind of an unusual card from way back. Like it lets you look at the top card of someone's library, and at the beginning of the next upkeep, you draw a card. And depending on most of the time you target your opponent, but in this case, Tristan can target himself. And then depending on what he sees on top of his library, he can then stack the trigger of Delver of Secrets and Mishra's Bauble in a way that he gets maybe like one more shot of flipping the Delver if the top card is, let's say, like a land or a creature, right?
Yeah. You basically get to look at the top 2 cards at that point, right? Which greatly increases the odds of Delver flipping. So that's one of those telltale signs of somebody who knows their Delver gameplay. Meanwhile, on Cherry's side, he's actually fetching for a dual land, going for the Ponder here, and trying to figure out what else do we see in hand. We see an Orcish Bowmaster, we see a Snuff Out. I think we see also a Reanimate. We saw more Life Loss spells on top. And he seems to be okay, potentially losing that Underground Sea to a Wasteland, so I'm not surprised he's keeping cards on top that are not lands.
But it also looks like Jerry's a little land light here, if I'm not mistaken. I couldn't spot a second land.
Yeah, I was also wondering, right? As I said that, I saw the rest of his hand. There was no land, so we figured out. Oh, okay. Look at this. Okay. He doesn't care about any wastelands. We are restarting the game, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to game 2, as everybody draws a new 7, or I guess in this case, more like a 6, and we restart the game. Tristan, it's your first turn. Here we go. Oh, draw 2 cards on the first turn. I would like that. Thank you, Mishra's Bauble. Oh god, this is gonna be we're gonna replay the very first turn. Okay, over to Cherry.
Yeah, this really reminds me of the really old Delver mirrors, like with Stifles and Wastelands, and the Delver decks are so good at resetting or like delaying the game to a point where even on the 3rd or 4th turn, it still looks like turn 1.
Oh, and Cherry breaks symmetry. We're not gonna have a repeat of the first turn cycle. But Thoughtseize gonna take out that Lightning Bolt, and we see what's the second card? That was a Wasteland?
In the Misty Rainforest, I believe. Yeah.
I figured. Yeah. It's tricky for Tristan. I think Cherry's actually sitting on a bunch of cards here. He's got the offense going for now. Delver, unfortunately for him, doesn't flip. As we take out Cherry's land, and as you already mentioned, right, it looked like Cherry might Might be out of cards. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, cool. We're gonna still use that and play another free snuff out. Okay, now this is gonna be a critical turn. Is Cherry gonna have another land? You don't want to be the guy passing with no plays here, right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty bad. Not so much now because there is no pressure from Tristan's side, but
Dude, no
hey,
fear
look at
from
that.
Cherry's side. Look at this. I'm gonna
Valet,
lose
look at
all the
this.
life. Like turn 3 already lost 14 points of life. I don't care. And Cherry's gonna try to flip his own, well, not exactly his own diver. Tristan's diver, who's gonna betray him, and this one flips. Sure enough, take 3, opponent down to 17. It's gonna be a long way, but with Tristan almost out of cards, right? There must be one mystery card in his hand, which can already deduce is not a cantrip and is probably not a creature. So I would say the last card in his hand is Force of Will, if I had to guess. And just like another one.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna need no creatures.
Oh my goodness. This looks like Jerry Thompson just simply forgot to submit Delve of Secrets, so he's gonna just take the opponent's Delve of Secrets instead.
Yeah. Like if you walk by and you see like 2 purple sleeves, you're like, dude, what was Cherry doing there? Like,
yeah. And like the cool part about all this is that like Jerry's deck, like he didn't put Delve of Secrets in his deck, but his deck has actually a lot of instant sorceries. So the Delve of Secrets is actually not that bad at flipping either.
Yeah, he's got 14 instant sorcery. Actually, no, he's got 25. Almost half the deck is instant sorcery. So he's got a pretty good shot of flipping even the second Java. And at this point, of course, for Tristan, the ideal scenario here is if you find a Murktide to basically virtual card advantage Cherry here and try to claw back into the game as you draw more cards. But Cherry's fine, right? Cherry's not flipping the server. 4 damage. Here we go. And Tristan, like, he probably wouldn't hate like finding any kind of cantrip at least, but as long as you like don't do anything, there's so much information to be gained. We know you have no lightning bolt. We know you're very unlikely to have taste, but we find what we need. We found exactly what we need. The big Murktide that we talked about a turn earlier. It's gonna be we'll see. We'll see. There's gonna be some dice. Oh, or not. This is the best use of Force of Will, right? As you're about to close out the game very soon, you're willing to throw away another card, especially since they're up on cards. And now Tristan, even if he finds another copy of Murktide, he's not going to be able to cast it. He might need to draw running lightning bolts.
That force was actual game breaking. The snuff outs, like I counted the one in Jerry Thompson's deck. I think he only runs 2 snuff outs, and they were both used on the 2 Delve of Secrets, which are now on Jerry's side. But that Demon Dash Shadow deck like doesn't really have many answers to a resolved Murktide region. Like there are no Pyroblast, for example. I guess you can Brazen Borer, Petty Theft maybe, but usually the plan is to simply race.
Yeah, and here, as you're sitting on 2 more lands, this might already be lights out for Tristan, right?
Oh my goodness.
He's taking 4 damage here, so yeah, I guess he literally, I think he needs a Brainstorm, right? Yeah, Legacy, best card in the format. He needs a Brainstorm to find 2 spells that he's got 2 red mana sources, so he could actually go Tropical Brainstorm, take out both Divers, but Cherry might also have something to say about that. Cherry is like, dude, look at Cherry. He's like, I don't need creatures, I don't need lands. I literally only need your stuff, and I'm gonna take you out that way. I'm gonna get rid of the green mana. And that might just be the handshake there. I can't imagine Tristan having a combination of cards to come back from this. Potentially like land, Brainstorm, Double Bolt. In that case, they would actually aim those at Cherry and win the game, I guess. Okay, second Murktide.
Okay.
And now he needs Cherry to not flip that diver there. And it doesn't flip.
That's an honest Murktide region. This is a 7-mana 3/3. Just as big to trade with the Delve of Secrets. They both go in Tristan's graveyard.
I guess that works. Like, look at Cherry, literally like not using any of his cards. Like, all my cards go to the graveyard. He's secretly a dredge deck. And I think he drew another Wasteland from what we've seen. He might, or maybe he's got something else. No, it's another Wasteland. Okay, let's see if he wastes an upkeep. There's probably, yeah, I was gonna say he's probably not gonna waste. That's the Brainstorm we talked about.
Dude, drew a spicy one.
Close enough.
This is not a really common card in you see in Legacy. It's a Ponder, but you get the card on the next keep.
Oh, this is great, right? You can actually try to get. Oh, this is so tricky when you think about it. You've got the lightning bolt. You really want to kill Cherry with it. Like, you can actually let Cherry. This is so tricky, right? I guess you have to take out the painter after seeing what's on top. But I almost want to say Tristan is in a better position now.
What
Gonna
Jerry
draw his
doesn't know,
card.
yeah, what Jerry doesn't know is that he's virtually on the 1 life now.
And that's okay. We're gonna do that before the trigger. Okay, yeah. Go back to your graveyard. Gonna draw the card. And now Tristan actually got a Dragon Rage channel in hand. We got creature, instant, sorcery. It's not. Well, I was gonna call it flipped. It's not deliriumed up yet. Cherry, Cherry. I just want to say. Wasteland number 3, sure. Like, this guy really doesn't like lands, man. Cherry, you might need to start using your own lands. There's no reanimate for opponents' lands. Let's give us some ideas. Actually, that would be something cool. Reanimate your land.
Yeah, look at this, and this is a stunning comeback from Tristan. Like, on 1 life, Jerry Thompson is at 4 life. Dragon's Fate Channeler is delirious, if I'm not mistaken. It has to attack. Jerry also used most of his removal spells. And there's just not a lot of defense in the air, and damn, that was what a comeback! What a comeback! I did not think that Tristan would get a chance to turn this game around, but man, legacy.
Tristan came here and he said, "I got 19 points of extra life, and I'm going to use all of them." And like you said, we talked about what needed to go right for Tristan to come back into this game. And he actually made it work. This is super impressive. I was pretty sure the guy who neglected to play any of his own lands or creatures would take away the game here, but Tristan was finally able to claw back into the game, as Cherry was basically only drawing Wastelands for a very long time. And that's the downside of Wasteland. Right? We often talk about it as one of the best cards in Legacy, but its best application actually is to put something into play that provides you with some kind of tempo, and then trade 1-for-1, like on development with Wasteland. Your opponent always gets to use their mana first, but if they can't really use it for anything while you advance the game with some kind of tempo play, then you can come out ahead. But here, it didn't really work out for Cherry. He was close, very close to closing it out, 19 points to Tristan, but Tristan was just ready in time to recover with a timely portent that basically gave him everything he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, being at 1 life against a Death Shadow player is also, that's a tricky position, right? Because there is the card Orcish Bowmasters, the new hotness in Legacy, and that can, sometimes it just shoots down players, not only creatures.
I think Cherry just got a reanimate there. Okay. I can see that being slightly worse on the play, as you have to conserve your life total on the draw. I was going to say, but I would assume he's going to take the play for game 3 here. But he's got something figured out. Maybe he actually is okay playing a more controlish game, given that he has Orcish Bowmasters. We'll see. This is a really hard one to call here, right? I think both decks are operating on equal levels, tempo-wise, development-wise. I think the long game favors Tristan somehow, but then again, Cherry basically has the better creatures there. This is exciting, right? And the second game certainly was a testament to that.
Absolutely. Like, we haven't even seen a single questing druid / Seek the Beast yet, but that's the really card advantage which kicks in on the Izzet side of things, right? I think
if you got the time.
Exactly. If you got the time, because like, Jerry's creatures are so gigantic. Like, the Troll of Khazad-dûm, if it comes down, it's gonna be such a nightmare for the Rock deck to answer. And it's the same with Death Shadow. Like, your Lightning Bolt deck, your Lightning Bolt's probably not gonna match those 6/5s and 10/10s, maybe.
I mean, that's where Unholy Heat comes in. I guess also Stern Dismissal. I read the guide, the primer, that Julian Jacobowitz wrote after winning Prague. And he talked about how these big creatures are a problem. And that's primarily why there's Stern Dismissal. That's also why there's Unholy Heat. And he wants to have some kind of out to them, especially if they come down early. And I would guess that's the strategic approach that Tristan is going to take to these creatures as well. I would assume he has also read that guide. If not, it's certainly the way you would work it out in the game. Now, Cherry plays Ponder on the first turn, off of a Shockland, goes down to 18. What do you see? We see like 2 more Wastelands, I want to say. I think there's a Reanimate.
There was a Death Shadow too.
There's another Death Shadow on top, a Brazen Burrow, another land.
I think in the earlier stages of the game, you are probably allowed to keep like a wider range of ponders, just because you don't know, right? Like you don't know how the game's gonna shape out. Like, is Tristan gonna deploy another Delve of Secrets turn 1 followed by like 2 more Delve of Secrets or Dragon's Rage Channelers, or is it more gonna be like a Volcanic Island ponder type of like slow game?
I've
Eventually
seen
like
you.
questing druids.
I've seen you like in high level events where you literally went turn 1 land and did not play Ponder just because of that reason, where you wanted to figure out what the opponent was up to and how your hand is going to develop. And I think people had a lot of questions about that because, especially for me, for a very long time, I just made the connection. I have mana, I can cast Ponder, I cast Ponder. And that was such a revelation to me to see you doing that. I think at some GP that you top 8'd, where you literally went land go without casting your Ponder.
All right, speaking of lands, there's a Wasteland ready to maybe eventually take out the Volcanic Island? Or
Jerry
not.
came here for one thing and one thing only, taking out all of your lands. Here we go. Yeah. Volcanic Island, I don't like that. Guess it's going to be a brainstorming response. You know what I always loved? In these situations where Jerry could be like, maybe I'm gonna daze this, but then Tristan's like, if this is my only land, I could even like daze back and try to save my land. But no, we're gonna see normal procedures here. Brainstorm. Yeah. Jerry reminds Tristan that he did not sacrifice his wasteland on itself. He actually took out the Volcanic Island there, sure. And Tristan's got everything to work with, I guess. But he decides, okay, let's reset the game once again. Both players love this, right? This is the tempo playstyle. This is the tempo lifestyle. Resets, resets, resets. What's Jerry gonna be up to here? He's so hard to read, right? I'm trying to like read some of his body language, but he's like so ready, so calm. He's just gonna play his land. Did he actually play that untapped? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess he just wants to lose some more life.
Oh, it's a delta. It's a delta, so like he has to crack it. Yeah.
Got me. Kinds of Sharky fetch lands,
but
right? That's
I think for the first time we don't see Volcanic Island into Delve of Secrets. This is more like the slower game we just talked about. And Tristan already has a questing druid in his hand, I believe. And this might be, so he might actively be looking for more lands to cast the Seek the Beast first and followed up with Tropical Island into the questing druid, and maybe outgrow Jerry's creatures eventually, because those questing druids, they're 1/1s, only for maybe a turn or two.
You know what's interesting? I see a Delve of Secrets in Tristan's hand. There could be a couple of things. First of all, maybe he's just keeping it as a potential pitch card for Force of Will. Or he's actually looking at this. Cherry's got 2 mana, and you don't want to run out like a 1/1 Delver into Orcish Bowmasters, which was a big consideration for Julian Jakobowicz, who even said, I think he sides out Delvers on the draw against Bowmaster decks. And from Cherry's side, of course, he doesn't know that there's no Delver. But from Tristan's side, that's a really big commitment to say, hey, I'm actually really not trying to pressure you as hard as I can, because I think I can win the long game. Also, if there actually was going to be a Bowmaster, it's a lot better to play your Ponder first, right? And not your Delver. Because if you play your Delver and then it gets Bowmaster and then you're sitting on that Ponder, you're like, dude, I wish I had played it in the reverse order.
Absolutely. I think like one of the scariest thing that can happen to Tristan is if Jerry goes like second land go, or even third land go. It is, I would feel so uncomfortable, especially if you're like sitting on maybe like a Ponder or Brainstorm in your hand.
I want to say this is something like Wasteland number 7 or 8. And now Cherry's putting the trigger. He wants the troll. Tristan says, that's not gonna happen. But Cherry's got the daze. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And there's nothing Tristan can do about this. And looking at this hand, he's got the troll, he's got a Murktide. I guess he can make a pretty big Murktide and try to raise, especially since Cherry is on 9. But he's gonna need to play 2 more lands and then hope to not run into another Wasteland or Daze. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough comeback. But we've seen Tristan do this on the second turn, right? He came back from a pretty bad spot. And I mean, there's a word. I guess we start with the. I want to say I almost want to play the Portent here, because the Delver doesn't really help us all that much, does it?
Well,
I guess you could
like,
try to be aggressive.
there are two things, right? Like on the one side, there is this gigantic troll 6/5 with super menace, basically, which is gonna take on Tristan's life total in about 3 turns from now. On the other hand, though, Jerry Thompson himself is at 9 life, and like Delve Secrets is not a terrible plan if you ask me. That's because that if it flips, it's also a 3-turn clock, so it might be again like in a racing situation. Like
Yeah,
Jerry's deck is designed in a way that it just deals so much damage to itself that even a single Delve of Secrets might just, take the victory home.
yeah. It's basically for up to Tristan to decide: do I want to potentially lose against the removal spell, which would swing the race very much in Cherry's favor, or do I want to dig and try to find my own removal spell for Cherry's troll? And he decided, when in doubt, let's be more aggressive. And who else subscribes to that kind of school of magic? Cherry Thompson. Just gonna have like a troll, giant troll, as well as a giant Death Shadow. At this point, Tristan, he's craving a removal spell now. Especially since we got, as you call it, Super Menace. Dude, you should be working with Wizards. I love that. Super Menace. For those who don't know, the troll can only ever be blocked by at least like 3 creatures. That was it, right?
Yep. And in the format Legacy, that doesn't happen very often, though. Like,
when I was a
except
kiddie,
like Devon Tax's deck, maybe.
when I was like a very young player, I looked at the card Defense of the Heart. And I thought, like, how is this not the most broken card in the history of the game? This is better than Black Lotus or anything that the experienced players ever showed me. And for those who don't know, it triggers on your upkeep if the opponent controls 3 creatures, and you get 2 creatures from your library into play. And back in my school, like, if you had fewer than 5 creatures, you were creature screwed. Yeah, nothing really happening on Tristan's side there. Porten on himself. Couldn't really find anything. And now Cherry is very close to almost forcing Tristan into a block here. Not there yet, but the troll is going to be lethal next turn. Oh, this might actually already be lethal. Yeah. Tristan just packs them in.
Oh,
They
all
can't
right.
good games. And Cherry Thompson takes the win. 1-0, still a very, very high mountain to climb. I think it's going to take something like 10-1, right? Even 9-1-1s might not be sure to actually make it all the way to the top 8. This is such a cutthroat tournament. This is going to be 1,000 players. And judging by the previous Eternal weekends that we have seen, a record of 9-1-1 gives you a very significant chance of missing out on the top 8. So any loss, any draw that you pick up, you can really only have one of them if you want to make sure to get to the top 8.
Yeah, that being said, congratulations, Jerry Thompson. That was a fantastic run, and I think we're gonna have a backup feature match now for you.
All excited for that.
So, now we have High Tide by Jazz Hatfield. Jazz Hatfield has been around in Legacy for a very long time, and we have one of the oldest combo decks in all of Legacy, which is a mono blue combo deck. It's High Tide combo. So this is a deck where you generate a lot of mana with High Tide and cast Time Spiral, or the new hotness in Legacy, Mind's Desire. It just came back from the banned list, and it's here to rock and roll, basically. You back this up with Pondus and Brainstorm, you have Force of Wills, you have Turnabout to untap your land, Candelabra of Thanos, and the most interesting part about this deck is it has 0 win conditions in the main deck. What's up with that?
But actually, I see a Fey of Wishes, so what if you attack with it 20 times? Is that gonna work?
Oh my goodness, this is insane.
I want to see it happen one time at least. No, actually, like, there must be another way to win, Kai. Can you figure it out?
Yeah, so it's gonna be on my bingo list for sure. But the real win condition is in the sideboard. You have a Cunning Wish in the main deck and 2 Fey of Wishes in your main deck to grab the win condition from the sideboard, which is either the Brain Freeze to mill out your opponent entirely, or you grab Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. It's the only Planeswalker in this deck, and it has an interesting text to it. It says, like, if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So it's kind of like a Thassa's Oracle effect. And yeah, super aggressive. Really nice to see.
Second deck that we got going here, this one's coming from Colin Logan. And Colin Logan is taking a different take of one of the most popular decks in Legacy, Death and Taxes, Yorion, 80-card Death and Taxes, but here we are splashing black. Most importantly for Orcish Bowmasters, one of the, I want to say, the hypest cards in the format for ever since it was released, basically. then we got some other stuff. We got like an opposition agent that we can tutor for. We got Thought Seizes, of course, one of the best black spells around. And I want to say, like, this is almost the mainstream variant of Death in Texas these days, right? It used to be mono black, mono white for a very long time. But now that Orcish Bowmasters has entered the format, I think it's I don't know, like I want to say it's the mainstream version. Like people are gonna like maybe dispute that, but we will see how good that's gonna work out. Okay, and here we go. Jesse Hatfield on the right side playing High Tide. You know what I'm most excited for with every High Tide player, Kai? I want to see their choice of basic islands.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. You have so many good options, though.
Yeah, this one is Urza's Saga. It's not the arena foil, it's the straight up OG Urza's Saga. I love that.
Yeah,
Ponder,
like
here we go. I would expect Jesse to play like a lot of old school cards. And for those who don't know, Kai already mentioned it. Jesse and Alex Hatfield, the two Hatfield brothers, they're kind of like legacy royalty, I think I called it earlier. They have been around since the inception of the format. They have been very influential. They ran columns, they ran analysis, everything, and have been one of the most influential people in the format for something like the first, is it 10 years of legacy? Something like that. Colin Logan on the other side, accomplished Death in Texas pilot, has played a lot of Death in Texas, has his own set of finishes, and he's starting out with a turn 1 Etherwile. While Jesse, oh, who would have known, just finds another basic island from Urza's Saga. And for those who don't know, but to basically run down Jesse's plan is, Jesse wants to just keep making land drops. The most devastating thing for High Tide is to miss one of your early land drops. Because you want to use your High Tides, and for those, you're going to need a lot of lands. Colin, on the other side, I think it's actually going to be a really hard matchup, right? I guess the Bowmasters can help you, especially if you bring them in off the Wile, which is going to make them uncounterable. But other than that, you can try to have some remedies like porting an island and stuff in response to the High Tide, but nothing that really excites me. He probably wants to put on some kind of clock early and find Bowmasters. What do you think?
Yeah, Colin, unfortunately, he is missing the best creature in this matchup, which is a Spirit of the Labyrinth. It is not in his deck. It's a 2-mana 3/1 that makes sure that no one draws extra cards. And man, Jess Hatfield is all about drawing extra cards and like a lot of them. So that's not going to happen. As a replacement, you get the Orcish Bowmasters, which are also quite good in this matchup. They deal a lot of damage, but preventing draws is much more powerful than damage, especially because Jess is not gonna deal a lot of damage to himself, like Jerry Thompson in the previous round.
Yeah.
So we will see. Like Colin definitely has to close out the game kind of ASAP.
But looking at the hand, Jesse could be in a bit of trouble, right? I actually do want to know whether we are gonna take Lorien Revealed here, because I see no other cards. Like there's one promo that I don't really recognize next to the Lorien Revealed.
Oh, I think that's the Mind's Desire.
Oh, okay, so that's like a pretty clunky hand there. I guess we take out the High Tide. I can see why we take out the High Tide. It's basically the one card you can almost never win without. I mean, there's some Chronicle scenarios, but Jesse rips another island. Here we go. He also got his 4th land drop secured. And you know what I just realized as well? We don't care as much about Bowmasters, right? We got Dress Down. You can, like, Jesse can always go end step Dress Down on Colin's turn, and then have the Dress Down around for his turn. So any of the creature-based interaction that Colin has is not gonna work. I mean, that's not gonna make it easier for Colin, though, I guess.
Yeah. What a beautiful answer. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many hate bears are on the battlefield, be it opposition agent or Orcish Bowmasters, Thalia, Guardian of Flame. You haven't even talked about Thalia here, but Thalia is basically the Death in Texas card.
Do people still talk about Thalia in Legacy? I don't know. I love the card. Dude, I love the card. There are a few cards I love more than Thalia for what it does. But I feel like it's kind of lost ground in Legacy. It's kind of fallen off a little bit. But Colin certainly thinks different. But no Thalia in hand here would have probably been deployed from the other Wile on his turn. And Jesse, it just goes back to what he's done best. He just finds another High Tide. By the way, Kai, which one's your favorite High Tide? Is it gonna be the Aquarium High Tide? Is it gonna be the Surfboard High Tide? Is it gonna be the Merfolk High Tide? I guess there's also the Greatest Thief in the Multiverse High Tide. Which one do you go
There,
for?
there's so many. I think there's also one with Dark Faden, I think.
Yeah, well, that's
I,
that's
I,
the one I was
I
trying to
oh
remember
shit!
the
Oh
name
yeah.
of.
I think like there's so many options to choose from, but I'm personally a big fan of the cute Tide, which is one in Aquarium. With those like
Okay,
little
okay.
like CNC monsters. It's not a really intimidating artwork, but it's more like a cute one. And
So,
maybe
but
it
when
makes
I
it so
played this
that
deck,
opponents don't counter it.
when I played this deck, I played the Murfolk High Tide, but I think by now I think I like the. Is it Drew Tucker, the one that has the
I think
surfboard guy?
so.
I think I like
Yeah.
that one the best.
hmm
I just love that there's so many awesome choices there.
Yeah, here you can see like Colin is basically attacking with his Flicker Wisp here, like trying to close out the game as fast as possible. But like Devon Taxis again, it is a creature heavy deck. It runs 33 creatures plus a Yorion in the sideboard, but he did not prepare for High Tide, I think, because like his list is kind of soft to it.
Yeah, I think it's also not the kind of deck you really have on your radar, right? You think you got combos somewhat covered with your hate bears and everything that you got, but High Tide is a very specific deck, right? If you don't put High Tide under pressure, I want to say it might actually be one of the best decks in the format in a very long game, just because it really only wants to resolve that High Tide, and from there it just like can completely overwhelm you. And Jesse figured, you know what? I don't even need to go that late. You got a while on 3. Everything you can bring in on a while on 3, I can beat. He's happy to
And
make
oh my
sure by
goodness.
running out the dress down on the main phase even here.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a man who like oozes confidence. Just like,
Yeah.
you know what? Nothing like play, untap, end of turn, like all the fancy stuff that Julian would have come up with. Jesse knows the stack and he knows that he can go for the win here.
I mean, this is the magic number, right? Like you cast High Tide, and then you have 3 islands untapped, which is a total of 6 mana, which is exactly Time Spiral mana. This is gonna be a lot of fireworks in just a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I love how the deck is basically fueled by unbans. Like I remember when Time Spiral was unbanned, this already like started becoming a thing again. Now we have Mind's Desire. And I want to say, like, Mind's Desire, we did an entire podcast, right? A super impromptu podcast episode on Mind's Desire when it was unbanned, because it's probably one of the most exciting cards in the format, both to play and to cast. Probably not to sit across from, though. So, very sorry for Colin, but I think everybody else is going to have a great time here as Jesse, shuffles his deck once, and then in paper, you can actually shortcut. You don't need to shuffle your deck every single time and reveal the top card unless anything changes between Storm copies, which usually doesn't. Like nobody plays a Brainstorm in response most of the time. So let's see what Jesse is going to reveal here. Kai, what do we find of this Time Spiral, Kai?
So the cards that Jesse is hoping to find here in the new 7 is, first of all, another High Tide. You can't get enough High Tides, right? Like the more High Tides you get, the better your islands are. And you're gonna cascade more cantrips into more business spells. He wants to also have he wants to find another 6-drop. So he wants to find more draw 7 effects. He wants to find that Mind's Desire, or at least cantrips that can lead into one of those, and basically keep the storm going. Like if Tendrils of Agony is not enough for you, you might want to check out this deck, because this deck goes hard on your opponent. Like in terms of how many action spells you cast in one turn.
In the days before EDH, before Commander, we sometimes did things where we got together with like 4 or 5 players and we played like basically a free-for-all legacy. And I remember one particular game where the High Tide player literally took out every single player in a single turn just because they had so much Storm. And they just like went to brain freeze everybody out, and then even used their Blue Sun Zenith and stuff to literally make everybody draw a card. And wouldn't you love to see it? Turnabout, another Urza Saga card, untapping all your lands, giving you even more access to all the mana in the world. And at that point, as you mentioned, right, you just want to have like a couple of cantrips. Eventually going to find another 6-drop. I'm actually trying to see, is Jesse even keeping track of the Storm, or is he like, dude, I'm just like so deep into this, I probably won't even need Storm.
Yeah,
probably announcing it verbally, I would guess. I guess that works.
You have to. There's so many things you have to track. First of all, like how many high tides have you cast this turn, for example?
I see actually he's taking notes. I didn't keep track of the Storm. It must have been something like 7. Or, yeah. Jesse's checking that for me. He's like, yeah, Julian, it's probably 7. Yeah, they're double checking. very, very high tide. I guess at that point you also like you really need to start tracking your mana, because the deck is easily capable, especially once you get additional high tides going, to go up to like triple digits amounts of mana. And that's the Mind's Desire you talked about.
All
Is
right.
that the one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the Mind's Desire.
Okay, everybody, strap yourself in. We're gonna get in the roller coaster that is resolving a Mind's Desire for I would guess 8 or something.
Oh my goodness! Like this is like one of the most fun things to do in all of Legacies. I think like resolving a Mind's Desire with a relatively high storm count, because it's kind of like a mini game. You play. It can be all misses. You know, you can flip only lands or counter spells. That's totally possible. Imagine flipping another Mind's Desire to a Mind's Desire. Oh my goodness!
That's the dream, right? Okay, 2 Merchant Scrolls, a Brainstorm, a Force of Will, another Force of Will, Ponder, Dress Down, and Time Spiral, dude. We got everything we need. We can keep the roller coaster going. More fuel for you.
There it is.
And now at this point, the art in playing the deck, I want to say, is like figuring out which sequence of cards is going to give you the best value. Even though I want to say Jesse's already like most likely to just like take this game. But I also don't fault Colin for sitting in there, right? Because there's always a world, especially if Time Spiral is involved, where you Time Spiral and you literally draw into a hand that doesn't do anything. It's unlikely, but it can happen and has happened. So Colin's just sitting in there. He's telling Jesse, you show me what you got. And as soon as Jesse's going to present a win condition, which he might already be able to, right? Through Merchant Scroll into Cunning Wish. I want to say maybe he's not even going for another Time Spiral there.
You might see, but like if you're sitting on the Death and Taxes side and you see your hideout opponent going through the motions very quickly, it's kind of a bad sign already. Like you know that they have figured out. It's just a matter of time and a matter of patience, Jesse, right? Maybe.
Jesse Hatfield, probably one of, like, next to Colin Sherbert and Feline Longmore, one of the most prominent high tide players in the history of the format. I want to say, like, he's been around since the very beginning. And it's kind of cool, right? You fast forward almost 20 years and you see him here still playing the deck.
Oh, totally.
It's not the original high tide in the sense that, like, the original high tide was called Solidarity and it could actually win at instant speed on the opponent's turn. Now that we have all these powerful cantrips, like starting even with Ponder, then going into Time Spiral and now Mind's Desire, the deck has become sorcery speed. And yeah, Jesse's putting it to really great use there. He's going to run out Fae of Wishes, I believe, which is going to be able to grab Chase, Wielder of Mystery from the sideboard, I would guess.
Yep.
Oh, Brainfreeze. I guess that does it as well.
It's the adventure sorcery granted. You may choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game and reveal it and put into your hand. And yeah, that's enough. Colin just packs it up.
You know what I really like? I think Jesse could have gone for the Chase Wielder of Mystery, but he didn't really need to. And instead he was going for the Brainfreeze, which potentially could have like shown him Colin's entire deck to just like get a tiny bit of extra information out of there. And Colin wisely just packs it in. He's like, nope, not going to deliver any kind of free information there. As we go to sideboarding, now for Colin, what is Colin going to do to address what seems to be a really, really bad matchup? I see 2 Deafening Silences, which are definitely going to come in. I like Gadokteak. I do like Mindbreak Traps. What is there? Council Judgment? No. Okay, so here's the thing that I've learned from one of the best Legacy players that I've ever played with, Anton Kalinski. He basically showed me this like 12 years ago. If you're playing a deck like this against High Tide, you're down and you want to increase your odds. It's not a great thing to do, but it is a way to victory. You bring in Surgicals and you bring in Mindbreak Traps. It's a lot harder to do now that the other deck has a lot more tools, but what you can do, and you can try to construct a victory that way, is you surgically extract the Force of Wills, and then you hope that after a Time Spiral, the opponent is going to be defenseless, even though they have, let's say, a Mind's Desire or a Time Spiral, and then your Mindbreak Trap is actually going to stop them. That's a way to victory. You can construct a game plan around that, especially if you have a lot of cards you want to take out because they don't do anything in the matchup, then you can justify bringing the Surgicals.
Yeah,
I want to see whether that's something
that's interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah, there's a little bit of tension between Gadokteak and Mindbreak Trap. Like, you can't cast Mindbreak Trap while Gadokteak is on the field. But other than that, there's so many cards you want to take out on the Death and Taxes side. On the High Tide side,
by the way, I want to say, if Gadok is in play, you don't want to cast Micro Trap anyway, right?
Yeah, you probably don't have to. So the Hydra deck doesn't have to sideboard much because the main core is so dense. There is Echoing Truth, there's Filter Out, and Snap. They're all cards to bounce permanent creatures. Since the Death and Taxes deck is a creature-based deck, those are definitely gonna come in, I assume. And
Are they even gonna come in?
I honestly don't know like what you want to cut in the main deck, but I could imagine you want to maybe trim a little bit on those Mind Desires or Time Spirals maybe because they're so heavy. They're like 6 drops. And you can find them eventually, but you have to slow down a little bit, right? The Death and Taxes deck is going to be prepared even more after the first game, and you might have to take like more like a control approach maybe, even though you're a combo deck.
The thing is, I look at the entire sideboard, and there's nothing I really want to bring in. So I don't want to bring in the Force of Negations. I don't want to pick in the Pact of Negations. So at that point, I got a bunch of stuff that I can grab with my wishes from the main deck, the Fae of Wishes and the Cunning Wish. So my reasoning as a non-high tide expert would be I bring in one bounce spell, probably the most versatile one, something like Echoing Truth, so I can Merchant Scroll for it. Maybe that's the idea, right?
Good point.
We will see. Jesse probably got it figured out, like playing against like hate-based creature decks, even though Death and Taxes is probably like not in the top 3, or at least lately hasn't been in the very top decks of the format. It's still one of the most popular decks. Like there's a lot of people who absolutely adore and love that deck. As we see Deafening Silence come down on the first turn. This is the card we talked about, right? And that one is not going to be stopped by a dress down. So Jesse is literally going to need some kind of bounce to deal with this. Or, as we talked about, go for the Fae of Wishes beats.
Yeah, what a banger. What a banger start. If Colin can back this up with some aggressive threats, it can even be a Stoneforge Mystic, Kaldra Complete. That's a really fast clock. But even like a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, to get more tax effects on Jesse here, would be fantastic.
Yeah, for Jesse right now, it's all about like probably making your land drops, resolving cantrips. And the ball is certainly on Colin's side here, right? Colin is trying to put on... Oh, dude, you called it. I was going to say put on some kind of pressure. This is probably the quickest pressure that his deck has access to. We're going to have Kaldra Complete most likely coming down next turn. And that's going to put Jesse on a 4-turn clock. Yep. Jesse needs to find the bounce spell we talked about. And then, of course, also have the entire rest of the combo. And on top of that, needs to be able to defeat whatever else cards Colin is holding right now. This is the dream start for Colin. I think if you could have drawn it up any other way, he would have still picked this one.
Yeah, this is an absolute thrilling start. It's aggression and it's disruption at the same time. Exactly what you want to be doing against any combo deck here.
You know what would be devastating for Jesse? If Jesse actually went Merchant Scroll, find the bounce spell, and then Colin happens to have a Thoughtseize to just like take it out, pass the turn again, and Jesse is back to square one.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, like Jesse has to be aware of those four Thoughtseizes. And it's the Death and Taxes deck is an 80-card deck, so like you don't find even the 4-ups like in every single game, but like these are like small things you have to keep in mind, right? Like when to cast your Brainstorms. Maybe you want to hide something from your hand against a Thoughtseize, but then there's also Orcish Bowmasters. It's a tricky situation, I think, like how to sequence your cantrips, especially Brainstorm.
Yeah, something is all this time, right? How to play the proper brain. I think there's probably no other card that has seen so many articles other than Brainstorm. Like Brainstorm is the card that has the most. Like nobody writes an article about like I don't know, like Chain Lightning or something, right? Poor Chain Lightning.
And this is exactly what you mentioned earlier, right? Like this is the Merchant Scroll for the bounce spell. I think this is Filter Out. It's a 3-mana instant, 1 blue, return all non-creature, non-land permanent to their owner's hand. And it's all of them. So it can completely reset the field, including the Kaldra Complete, including the Stoneforge Mystic, all hate pieces all together. The problem with this card is that it is a 3-mana card against a potential Thalia deck. So we will see.
Dude, we've seen the future. I think we've called out the exact sequence for the first 3 turns there.
Oh no. Oh no.
This is most likely gonna take the Filter Out, right?
Oh yeah. I think so. Like the rest of the hand is all combo pieces. High Tides, And I think there's like a time spiral and the Mind's Desire. There's a dress down, but again, as you mentioned earlier, right? Like the dress down doesn't really do much against the Deafening Silence here. So
Yeah, and I wonder whether Jesse has like additional copies that he can Merchant Scroll for. I think at this point he has got like most likely 3 other copies of Merchant Scroll in the main deck, as well as like 3 Wish variants. So he's doesn't really matter. He's basically got 6 outs that he needs to draw into and make work before Colin and his Charm Token get there. And yeah, Jesse probably wants to go. You just mentioned it, right? Jesse probably just like wants to find a Brainstorm, make land drops, and probably already cast his next Merchant Scroll on the very next turn if he can find it. Because this is quick. Like, you remember when he put Batterskull into play and then he had to wait a turn and then we attacked for 4? No. We don't do that anymore. In fact, it's actually still in a deck, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more defensively viable. But card are complete. This really, once again, like Stormforge is the kind of card, it goes away, then something happens, it comes back, and once again, it's a card again. So we'll see whether it's gonna actually take the entire victory, the entire game here.
like lava axing your opponent every single turn. It's not a bad place to be here. Ooh. Yeah, Colin must feel really good in this in this game now.
Yeah, Colin feels great. I wonder what else he's got up there. The cool thing, I mean, from our side, the cool thing is, since he doesn't have an Etherwild, he basically needs to reveal any kind of like tricks or hate pairs he has, other than Opposition Agent right away. So for a moment, I was actually like, is Jesse gonna be Opposition Agent here? If he ever tries to crack his fetch land? We will see. Colin wants to play another. Is it gonna be like a double black spell? I'm trying to figure out what would you fetch the second black source there. What could that be? Now you've been browsing the deck list.
It's interesting that the Stoneforge Mystic didn't attack this turn. Because that could have been like one more point of damage.
Yeah, see what you're saying.
Okay, but I think we see like a Flicker Wisp instead here. And this looks like Jesse Colin might have another equipment in his hand here.
Yeah, you already figured it out, right? This is like, why Stoneforge Mystic didn't attack there. So we're gonna have either it's actually only gonna be Batterskull, or I guess Lion Sash, which I would imagine would have been sideboarded out here. So probably like Batterskull. So even more pressure on Jesse. Like Jesse has to assume he's gonna be like that next turn.
Yeah, if this is Batterskull, it's lethal already.
Yeah. And if it's not Batterskull, he cannot crack his fetchland because that's 9 points of damage already. Yeah, Jesse packs it in.
Yeah, I guess we're never gonna find out if it was indeed a Batterskull or maybe just a bluff and there was nothing behind it. But the combination of the hate piece plus a quick clock is like this game quickly showcased how efficient it is to beat a combo deck this way, right? Like
this is the perfect opening.
Perfect, yeah.
So I'm not sure if Jesse's really gonna change anything up there. Kai, whom do you like in the third game? Who do you think is gonna be advantage here? Who's gonna take it?
So we've seen both games now. We've seen the game where the High Tide deck does completely the High Tide thing, and we saw the Death and Taxes deck doing its best to disrupt the combo player as much as possible. And for the third game, I usually favor the player who's on the play because of the additional like speed bump, speed you get. So I would probably favor the High Tide player here, but it's gonna be a close one.
Yeah, I think it's very much in favor of High Tide, but, and that's gonna be the big thing, is there gonna be another Deafening Silence? We'll see. Both players drawing the opening hands. Looks like Jesse's happy with the sand. Calling, checking it out. Okay, what do we have there? We got another Stoneforge. Certainly the MVP of the second game there. Orcish Bowmasters, good one. On the other side, we got a High Tide, we got a Turnabout. That's already enabling a lot of things. We basically got the combo. Oh, dude. Like, we got no protection, but we basically got the entire combo ready on Jesse's side of the board.
Okay, Colin had to take a double mulligan, I think. And decided to keep a hand with a couple of lands, Quick Clock, Stoneforge Mystic, and Orcish Bowmaster. The question is that gonna be enough, right? Is Orcish Bowmaster gonna be enough to stop the High Tide deck here? Because there is the card Dress Down, and Dress Down is fantastic against Colin's hand here.
That is true. That's true. So now on Colin's side, I'm actually curious, and it's so easy being a caster, right? You don't have to make these calls. You just ask the questions. Is Colin gonna play a turn to Stoneforge, which is gonna give him a lot quicker of a clock, or is he gonna main face the Orcish Bowmasters while Jesse is tapped out? He doesn't have to fear days out of this deck, or is there gonna be something completely different?
No,
I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because if Colin plays a turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, like, he also has to tap 2 mana the following turn to activate Stoneforge Mystic. So that's 2 turns without Orcish Bowmasters. It's
At which
tough.
point you start asking yourself, what is it for? I guess it's there to still like stop the time spirals, but you don't really get to stop the setup spells. And yeah, it looks like, okay, Colin has picked the Orcish Bowmaster side, which, as you mentioned, I think it already makes a lot of sense, because Stoneforge basically commits your mana for 2 turns, even though you still get to like sit tight and see what the opponent does on their main phase before you activate Stoneforge end of turn. But this is
Oh goodness. It's showtime. It is showtime.
I was almost gonna say Jesse drew a Force of Will there, because that's something. Colin very aggressively displays Orcish Bowmasters there, and Jesse's like, you know what? I don't care. This is Candelabra of Taos. I'm gonna make 6 mana at this point. I almost want to say that there must be a Force of Will. Or Dressdown wouldn't do it. I guess we got the Turnabout to make even more mana. Yeah, I could see that. There might be a Dressdown in his hand as well.
You don't see this very often in from high-tide decks going off this quickly. But with the help of the Turnabout and Candelabra, yeah, you get to actually resolve that draw 7. Okay, and now Colin gets really rewarded for not playing the Stoneforge Mystic, right?
Yeah, we're yet to see about that. I don't know what the last 2 cards in Jesse's hand are. I think what else did we see there? I think most of what we've seen is already in play by now. I think there must be like 1 or 2 mystery cards at that point. And dude, I am thinking that's gonna be either Force Pitch or Dress Down, because if it's not, then I don't want to be in Jesse's shoes at that point. Bowmasters comes down as expected. And Jesse, well, I guess he's waiting for Colin to announce targets and put the Orc into play. Okay, 1 damage to you. Make an Orc army.
And resolved. All right. Okay.
Okay, there's still the hope for Dress Down, but I guess we would have played in response to prevent the token. And now, we are in a world of hurt. I mean, technically, you can actually still win the game, right? You lose a lot of life. It's not one of those hate bears that literally stops your draws. So maybe that's why Jesse was comfortable playing into the Bowmasters, because I think because we've been trained as Legacy players to assume that these flash hate bears, they shut down all your draws, they shut down your search. They are like 1 or 0, like on or off, in the sense that they are either completely destroy you or they don't. But Bowmasters is kind of like middle of the road, right? It's very punishing, but it's not the end of the world. And sometimes you consciously play into Bowmasters. And maybe that's actually what Jesse was doing, what I was not considering earlier.
Yeah. Really nice.
Because let's say you find Mind's Desire, right?
Oh, totally. Like, Mind's Desire could be one. Just could also simply draw a Dress Down in this next 7, which is also fantastic. Like, Colin is it's tough, right? Colin is completely tapped out, and I think the only cards he can now play are the 2 Mindbreak traps in his 80 card deck. So it's a really slim line, I think. And most of his 7s might just be like 7 dead cards, like a bunch of creatures and lands. Jesse just simply needs to find a way to like get around this Orcish Bowmaster, and like he has 12 life still, right? So like it's not, he can actually fight off another draw 7 without dying. But
imagine playing like 2 draw 7s into Orcish Bowmasters and still taking the game. Oh, High Tide. When you watch High Tide and it clicks, it feels like such a rewarding deck. And I even like recently played it on stream, and I just like couldn't get enough of it. It's one of the most aesthetically pleasing, but also like one of the smoothest decks in Legacy, because most of the time you just know what's going on. And bonus, you get to play with a bunch of Urza's block cards. In this case, Snap from Urza's Legacy. Dude, I just love Urza block so much. So maybe I'm gonna become a High Tide gamer. Who knows? like Jesse's winning me over here with all of his plays.
Oh gosh. Okay, Snap. Bounce target creature.
Untap 2 lands.
Untap 2 lands. Untap the 2 lands is It is bizarre. Like I don't think they printed a card to generate card advantage, but no, mana advantage. But here we are.
Yeah. It's not even free. It's like basically, imagine if your Dark Rituals bounced Hate Bears. You'd be down for that, right?
Ooh, 100%, 100%.
So we see a lot more mana in Jesse's hand. We got some more untap effects. We got Time Spiral if we want to go into that, but there's also a world where Fae of Wishes might do something. I just love sitting back. Like, this is when you're watching like sports on TV, right? You're like, oh, I got all of these ideas, but then in the end, you want to see what the actual profession is. What are they doing? What's the order? Do we need to go into another Time Spiral, or is there like a way for Fae of Wishes with a ton of mana to get us there? Is there? Let me see. If this is something like Blue Sun Senate. There's a Blue Sun Senate. So depending on how much mana we actually have, I think those dice are representing that. Is it like 6 and 3? That can't be 36 mana, is it?
That'd be insane. Like if you can actually Blue Sun Zen if your Yorion opponent for lethal, that'd be quite impressive because it's so much mana.
Dude, I would be all for the showboating. I want to see that. This is why the people tune in, right? But instead, I think we're gonna go for the Mind's Desire. Makes a lot of sense. I think at this point, it's safer when you go for the Mind's Desire here because you don't run the risk of like basically fizzling out on your Time Spiral, as we see Mind's Desire for. What do you think that is like?
So I think if the red dice are storm counters, there must be 11, but I guess
you add them too. Dude, I'm so stupid. I was like, there can't be 56. You just add them.
we will get
concept of using dice.
We will get to 65 in maybe like a few minutes here, but I think for the time being, it's 11. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Let's go. Let's flip some awesome cards.
Okay, what do we see here? I guess we want to see another Mind's Desire. Everybody in chat, get hyped for another Mind's Desire. Mind's Desire to Mind's Desire is one of the coolest things you can do in Legacy. We found a bunch of mana. We found a bunch of card draw, protection, dress down. Okay, it's not Mind's Desire's time yet, and I think this is already enough to just like take the win for Colin. For Jesse here. We find another High Tide. Have you kept track? Is that like a second High Tide? I think it is.
I think so, yeah. I think so. There's another untap effect, Candelabra.
Who knows? Okay, I guess that's 13 storm count, not 166, as Julian would think.
Yeah. Like I'm so impressed by just High Tide having this kind of performance with only 3 lands in play.
You know what I love about High Tide, by the way, which kind of cool play they can pull? As soon as they get like another Candelabra, if you do the math, depending on how many High Tides have actually been played, it might actually more sense to turn about your own artifacts instead of your own lands, so you can create even more mana. Okay, Jesse's happy, just finds another Brain Freeze, which is gonna target Colin, take out all of his cards. And then if you like wanna go the extra mile, you can find a way to make Colin draw a card. I don't know if there's any in the main deck. Probably not. Like usually people like back in the days, we had like Wisdom. Somebody can help me out. There was not Words of Wisdom, but something similar. Wisdom, something that made both players draw a card. I think you drew 2 and the opponent drew 1 or something. But we don't really need that, I guess.
Yeah, how about a free Ancestral Recall here?
I take that.
Yeah, what a nice inclusion to the deck. The card's been around for a few weeks now, but man, High Tide is taking advantage of the spell like entirely, right? Like casting a draw 3 for free of Mind's Desire is just absurd.
By the way, shoutouts to Knights of Winds. Apparently, it actually was Words of Wisdom. That's the card that people would sometimes use back in the day to actually completely deck out the opponent once the deck has been removed. You know, how many cards actually are left in Jesse's library? We're already like going pretty deep here. Maybe he wants to put something on camera, right? Maybe he wants to show us the Mind's Desire into Mind's Desire. And if you want to win with Chase Wheel of Mystery, you most of the time actually need to do that because you literally need to get rid of your entire library. Let's see if that's the kind of win that he wants to put on screen here. Probably doesn't want to play another Time Spiral, as we mentioned. That's just like added variance that we don't really need. We have access to a lot of different cards. We got the Cunning Wish. I think we got another Fae of Wishes in play. In hand. In play.
Like
as the star moves to 1,666 in Julian counts.
Like, yeah, what are we wishing for here? It's
probably Blue Sun Senate, I would guess.
Okay.
That's the most likely scenario, right? You brain freeze your opponent, and even if they have Emrakul, which we can probably already like assume they probably don't have, we just like lose on Zenith, then response and make them draw their entire deck.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because we gotta filter out here. To bounce all non-creature,
so
non-land permanents.
Oh, that's so next level, right? I was talking about the play of untapping your artifacts. Now we are bouncing all of our artifacts. Dude, this is so deep. You're doing all of this of just 3 islands. Like the most innocent board you could present, like just 3 islands. Like maybe I'm gonna counterspell something. No. Like you're taking the game here.
This is really intense. Like I was told that High Tide is like a turn 4 plus deck. But nope.
I mean, technically, back in the days when Solidarity was around, it could win on the second turn, but it was like so incredibly unlikely. Turn 3 is not preferable. Turn 4 is like pretty doable, and turn 5 and everything beyond that is like very comfortable. And Colin just extends the hand. He's running out of dice. As we move to Stormcloud 36, there's this, that was Jesse's entire idea. He just wanted to run us out of threat dice.
Yeah. Congratulations. Oh my goodness, that was a fantastic appearance in the booth on the feature match in round number 1. Seeing like one of the craziest combo decks, followed by like after a Delver Mirror, I guess a sort of like Delver Mirror is really what makes Legacy, right?
This is the kind of game that really gets people hooked on High Tide. So if like Card Titan is gonna check their sales in the next couple of hours, there's probably gonna be a lot of High Tide components, right? I would think so. But yeah, as with that, round 1 of 11 in the books. Today we're gonna play 9 rounds of Legacy. Tune in a moment as we cut to a break. And Kaiser Vatari and I will be back in just a moment. So stay tuned, everybody, and see you soon.